Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of The Green Factor. I'm your host, Haris, the Green Carpenter. And just to reintroduce back the show to you guys, The Green Factor is a weekly show where we talk about green design and the business of sustainability. And today with us, we have Mr. Chee Seng. So he's my friend. We met like few years ago, and he does a lot of writing and thought leadership coaching. And since these past few years, I've been writing, and I've been seeing a lot of practice on thought leadership. So I thought that I'll bring in an expert to talk to us today regarding this issue. So welcome, Chee Seng.
Hi, Harry. Thank you. Glad to be here.
So thank you for coming to the show. Today we're going to talk about thought leadership. And before we go into the topic, I want to, for our viewers who don't know you, we would like to know a little bit about your journey and like how you've come to this route lah.
Hmm. I mean, uh, well, I've actually not been a thought leadership expert for very long. I started out as a writer about 25 years ago, copywriter in the advertising industry, and then since then I have been, going through many different experiences. I came out to freelance 98. I started out in 97, came out to freelance in 98. So I had a total of 1.5 years in employment. So I've been freelancing through that time. And in that time being freelancer, right, I do a lot of other things. So I did marketing materials, I did brochures, corporate profiles, things like that. And then later, much later, I think around 10 years ago, I went into Yahoo Malaysia. So that was my first exposure to digital media. Shortly after that, I think 3 years later, I went to do some work with a digital marketing agency. So from media side, I moved over to the marketing side. And in the past 4 years now, I've been heavily involved in public relations and strategic corporate communications. So accumulation of all these experiences has shown me that and also knowing and seeing how society has evolved, it's just shown me that, as today especially, as life becomes more complicated, things are moving very fast, and information is actually available everywhere. Anything that you Google, at least there's going to be a few 100,000 search results, right? So information is everywhere. So what people want now is not just information. What people need now is clarity, right? They need clarity, they need insights, they need something that help them make good decisions. And that's where thought leadership comes in, right? So the difference between content and thought leadership, some people say, well, it's basically the same thing. I would say yes and no, right? Thought leadership is I would say is a little bit higher level, where you're not just giving content and information to people, but you're actually giving people answers, insights, right? Something to make their decision making better, something to make their life better. And I feel this is really necessary today. Personally, is because I also have about 25 years, almost 25 years experience as a teacher, right? So um, I've seen how society have changed, right? The generations of children coming through, right? 25 years ago, the children very different from the children today, right? In a way, their lives are much more complicated. They have many more options, but that also makes their life much more complicated, right? And so the need for clarity is much more important now, right? So the young adults today, they need clarity. The older adults today, I think, also need clarity because of the culture shifts that's happening, right? Life 25 years ago and life today is so much different. The overload and the tsunami of information that comes to us every day. So I feel yeah, thought leadership probably for the next few years, at least 5 to 10 years, is going to be something very very important. You can see it rising up now
Mhm.
as a concept. 10 years ago, people started to talk about content marketing, right? So because internet was coming, and then people are using a lot of Google 10, 15 years ago. So people wanted to be present on Google, so they started to put out content information.
Mm. Okay, Chee Seng.
Yeah,
So good introduction. But before that, I need to say hi to people. So Jocelyn said hi, Chee Seng. Hi, Haris. Hi, Jocelyn. Thank you for tuning in.
hi Jocelyn,
Uh,
hi
Chris
Chris.
said hi. Hi, Chris. Thank you for tuning in. Before we go deeper into thought
Mm,
leadership, because the topic is thought leadership for sustainability, right? So it
mm,
can be for personal, it can be for business, and various other things like content
yeah,
creation and all that. So
mm,
before we go into that, like what is thought leadership? Like
yeah,
what's the idea?
yeah. So um, I make a distinction between content marketing and thought leadership. Content marketing will be something that you do. You put out content, right, to demonstrate your knowledge, to add value to your clients or potential customers, prospects out there. What the purpose would be is to give them the information to help them make a good buying decision or make a good decision about the topic that you are expertise in, right? So that I would categorize as purely content. uh, but of course, I need to say there's a lot of overlap. I just want to categorize it clearly so that we can understand it clearly, right? So that will be thought leadership, where we put out information, good information, informative articles that help people make decisions in their life, right? Whether purchasing decisions or whatever decisions that they want, like dieting, cooking, whatever it is. That's content. I would say thought leadership goes a little bit further, right? So you're not just giving people the how, right? How you're not just sharing how to do things, but you are giving insights into why things are happening like this, why these things are good to be done, why these things are not good to be done. When you observe these things happening in the world, why is it happening in the world? And then what's once you understand this, what can you do about it? Right. So thought leadership goes a little bit further to give you the insights behind the how, right? So that when you understand the insights behind the how, then you have a more solid foundation of decision making, right? The how well will take you to a certain level, right? At the most, you can be only as good as the how or a little bit better. But the why gives you uh, the insights, the behind the scenes. Lets you look into the mechanics of what is happening. And with that, then you can actually become more flexible and agile in your decision making, right? Because you know how things work at a deeper level. Yeah, so that's how I would define the difference between content and thought leadership.
Hmm. Yeah. So I have this understanding that when you say thought leadership is something that you personally believe in, or something that um, you your cause lah. But is it a place for you to also create debates, create conversation, and I'm seeing it that lah. It's not
Yeah,
about selling per se, but
yeah.
it's about like the mindset. It's about the thinking and all that. It's a slightly more above. It's not. I don't know. So that is where people have this problem of this, because in a way it's supposed to promote something, right? Either the
Mm,
product or the person, but at
yeah,
the same time it's not selling, so
that's
it's
right.
selling by not selling. So how can you, because like it's we are not supposed to sell per se, right? So yeah, how do you approach this,
so
huh?
So this is where we need to be very clear about what we want to achieve with the content that we produce, right? So if you're producing content with the intention to sell, then your content should be designed to lead towards a selling process, right? So, for example, if you are targeting people who want to buy a television, for example, and they're thinking of should I buy 32 inch, 43 inch, resolution wise, what are the price points, and in terms of ranking, what is the value that I get, right? So, like for example, three TVs might be 4,005 each, but in terms of features, what are plus and minus points, So, this is content that you can lead towards a sale, right? If you are a retailer selling TVs, you put this content out, right? Then this will be valuable for people to understand, and then hopefully, then they will say, okay, I think this is a good TV. If you have a call to action there for people to click, then that will become a lead. So designing the content towards sales, but towards thought leadership is a different purpose, right? So we have to understand, why do we want to become a thought leader? Why do we want to put out thought leadership content? Do we put out thought leadership content to generate sales? Then we need to think, is the content's intention and purpose actually designed to achieve the outcome that we intend, right? So if we are coming out and saying that, oh, I want to make a stand in this particular area, right? I want to make a point. I want to provide an insight. I want to make my position known. I want to make my what do you call it? Establish myself as an authority in this area, as somebody who is the go-to person, right? Will it result in sales? Maybe, but is it intended and designed to generate sales? So this one we have to have a lot of clarity, right? So otherwise, if we do not have this clarity and we are producing this kind of thought leadership content, and then we're wondering, how come I'm not getting sales? Which is exactly what I experienced, right? So when I started getting active on LinkedIn in 2020, so at one point I just decided, oh, I'm just going to express myself as I am, right? I'm just going to share my thoughts. uh, my intention was actually to generate leads, to generate sales leads, right? But when I started expressing myself in my own way, right, in my own mind, giving my own unique insights and views on things, I didn't have this clear distinction yet at the time. So what I understand now is, the kind of postings that I did was leaning more towards thought leadership about how to create content, right? About what makes good content, about what makes the mindset of a good content creator, things like that. So all the whys behind the hows, right? At the same time, I was expecting, where are my sales? How come I'm not getting any sales leads? So I was fumbling about until I realized, hey, there is a distinction between the kinds of content that we produce, right? So if I'm producing things that are leaning more towards thought leadership, uh, I would be setting myself for disappointment if I'm expecting sales, right? And I didn't understand, because I am getting a lot of calls. I'm getting calls for collaboration. I'm getting calls for uh, to share my thoughts with various organizations. I'm getting calls to partner up in certain business collaborations, right? So there's no immediate sales, but there are a lot of calls that go to other opportunities. So that's, after some time, then that's why I realized, okay, actually I am achieving results, but the results that I expected and the content I'm creating are not clearly defined in my mind. So that's why I'm feeling disappointed, but I am getting actually a lot of results, right? So once I understood that, then I understood, okay, right, so if this is what it takes for thought leadership, right? So then we need to expect the results of thought leadership. So the results can be immediate sales, but I think in thought leadership, it moves further, right? It moves further to request for collaboration, because people look at you as an authority. uh, in your space. I've even had people call me, contact me and talk to me and say, I don't know how you fit into what I'm doing now, but I want to talk to you and see how you can fit in. And I'm I'm wondering,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
this is a strange conversation. How I don't know what you want, and how do I know how I fit in, right? So, but there's the value in that, right? Because once having established your position in the market, these kind of doors open, right? And it's incredible when people call you and say, I don't know what you can offer me, but I want to work with you.
Mm,
So if you look at that from a business point of view, it's fantastic. It's really fantastic
mm,
because then it opens up conversations. Okay, let's see what we can do together.
mm.
And
So
it
it's
goes
it's it's
beyond just the sale, right? It goes much further and much bigger.
yeah. So like what you say initially as well, thought leadership is also about clarity in the market because there's so
Yeah,
much noise, right? So
yeah.
if you want to project that clarity and
Mm,
you yourself are not clear of what you want to project
exactly.
or what you want, so that is where it becomes all over the place lah. So
Mm,
I think that is true to a lot of us, especially when we first started, right? But
yes,
after
yes.
a while, we understand a little bit more how to fine tune and all that. So I have to say hi to people. Jimin,
Hi, Chimmy.
thank you for tuning in. James Fong.
Hey,
Hello, Chee Seng.
James. Hello,
You're
hello.
always supporting. And also Leon have said something. Um, I feel you, Chee Seng. Educational pieces and offer
Yeah.
prices pieces are so different.
Yeah. True.
So I think this is oh. So also another person says hello on in Facebook because you don't put your name, so I don't know. Oh, Adrina. So Adrina, thank you very much for tuning in. Yeah. So what I want to ask next is like, how do we decide we want to go into thought leadership?
Oh, Harith, your mic is muted.
Okay, so we decide we want to go into thought leadership.
Mm.
So how can we start to look into this?
Okay, so I think the first step I always say is to gain clarity what we want. Right? Don't be like me, started something and then don't know where it's going. So the first step is to gain clarity. What is the purpose that we want to do this? What are the kind of content that we are comfortable to share? What are the results that we want to see? So this will, for me, be the absolute first step, right? Once, I mean, you don't have to like have everything 100% clear, but you got to have at least some kind of clarity where it's going to head to, right? And then later we can refine it along the way. But if we want to be a thought leader, first of all, I think we need clarity about what is our purpose, right? What is our purpose, um, not just in the business or not just in the cause that we are looking at, right? So, for example, Harith, you are advocating green business, right? So, so you need to have clarity about why you are advocating green business, and for you definitely have clarity because you transform your family business, right, from traditional to green practices. Okay, so that's one. But I think more importantly, we need to have personal clarity. Why do we want to do this, right? Because if we do not have personal clarity, that means we very likely have very weak ownership of this thought leadership, right? Because when we have a strong sense of purpose, then we have strong ownership, right? Weak sense of purpose has always weak ownership, and weak ownership is not a very good starting point for thought leadership. Because why? As you mentioned, right? Sometimes people will disagree with you. Sometimes people will disagree with you very strongly. Sometimes people will just attack you, right, from different point of view. Uh, Sometimes people who are on your side will also attack you because they think it should be done differently, right? But that comes with the that comes with the feel lah, right? If you make a stand, you cannot please everybody. If you want to please everybody, you basically you have no stand because you're walking around everywhere trying to please everyone. But when you when you you know establish your flag in one particular area, you are making a stand, right? This is my cause, this is my purpose. You will have supporters and you will have detractors. And if you have weak purpose and you have weak ownership, when people come and detract from you, how strong can you stand, right? So you cannot be a strong thought leader. So
So it
having
comes
clarity
basic,
is the key, lah,
ba-
absolute key.
yeah. Basically, you need to own that so that whatever question people throw, you
Yeah.
can answer it. I mean, like you can defend it.
Yes.
So it makes
Definitely correct.
it makes actually it makes it better in a way that at least you know that what you believe in stands the critiquing, right?
Correct. Correct. And I need to put a little bit of a caveat there. We have to have the kind of uh, purpose driven ownership, right? But we cannot at the same time be so rigid that we cannot see anything outside of what we have. To me, that becomes very weak as well, right? uh, and to use an example, not mentioning any religion, but any religion also have this kind of people. The people who are most rigid in the religion, any religion, who cannot tolerate anything outside of what their worldview is, these are the people you cannot talk to one, right? And you also don't want to listen to them because it's so close-minded, right? So what I mean is when we have a sense of purpose, is our purpose big enough, strong enough to embrace other views? We might not accept the views, but can we balance the two views? I see the merit of your view, I see the merit of my view, and I still think my view stands. And not just lip service of I see the merit of your view. I have to truly see the merit of your view, right? But I still think my view stands. Right, then I would say that is really strong purpose, really strong clarity, really strong ownership.
Hmm.
Right,
So it's
it's
not
not like
about
it's
one
not
person
being,
is right, right?
yeah, it's not being blindly following that, that path. It's not about being so rigid, you cannot even tolerate, because to me that's actually a sign of fragility lah. Right, if you cannot tolerate anything, well, how strong can you be? Right, you
So
cannot tahan the wind whacking you, you cannot tahan the reverse flow extra strong. How strong can you be?
so Chee Seng, so
Yeah.
let's say you were to give an example of
Mm,
like person or business that is doing it well, so that we
mm,
also can refer to, especially in the local sense, so that
mm.
yeah, something that we can relate to and refer as well lah.
Look, local, I can't really think of anyone. um
Okay, international.
maybe maybe one person I can think of.
Let's highlight.
Maybe one person that I can think of is Said Azmi lah, the activist.
Okay.
Right, Said Azmi. I've been a big fan of his lah, ever since I found out about him few years back. And he is very consistent. He's really consistent, and he's got a lot of haters as well, right? Because he talks about people who are sexually abused. He talks about wives who suffer injustice from husbands, and because the community that he helps, there are certain patriarchal attitudes embedded in certain segments, right? So he has a lot of supporters, but he also has a lot of haters. But you see how he responds, right? He's very, very consistent. He's very consistent in how in the views that he expressed. He's very consistent in the work that he does, right? He's very consistent in the attitude that he has towards people,
So
no
I'm
matter
seeing
how
it.
people hate him.
I'm seeing it from the summary of what we're talking so far.
Mm,
It's thought when you say thought leadership, it's more about knowing yourself as a personal, not
yeah,
your business or your company. It's like
yeah,
your
yeah,
where do you stand and
correct,
what perspective are you taking when you are portraying, and
correct.
consistency, right? And at the
Correct.
same time, it's about consolidating other perspective as well. It's not disagreeing per se, but also understanding there's a lot of understanding of different things in the world.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be in a way not too biased.
Mm.
You are biased, but at the same time, you have to also take into account other people's perspective, lah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because
it's a
I
personal
think
journey. Yeah?
nobody has the monopoly of what is true in the world. No, nobody owns 100% of the truth, right? So you can be 99% wrong, but if I'm big enough to see your 1% correct, and I incorporate that 1% into my viewpoint, hey, I
Hmm.
grow stronger, right? So and I might make a friend in you, and maybe you have a chance to turn and see more of my point of view now, right? So instead of holding on to my 70% and assuming it's 100% correct, and then everyone else is 0% correct, you know, we become stronger when we have a bigger heart and mind, lah.
It's like the universal truth. Like there is no universal truth per se.
Or
So that's
rather,
when
I would say we humans,
how
because I believe in universal truth, but I would say humans do not have the ability to grasp 100% universal truth, right? So
it's more philosophical as well, in a way.
yeah, yeah, like for example, I'm a very strong Christian, right? So but I listen to I listen to people from other religions talking about their beliefs. um I'm a big fan of Gandhi, right? I think Christians have a lot to learn, and in fact, Gandhi learned a lot from Jesus. Right? So, so it comes around full circle, right? Gandhi learned from Jesus, and I think Christians can learn a lot from Gandhi. So,
So
uh,
yeah.
yeah. So we I think anyone who is really honest with themselves cannot ever say that I know everything, right? Mm. And that's part of
Mm.
integrity, lah, as part of your thought leadership as well.
So that is also one of the next question. Where is your limit? I mean, like which area you is it like more of a personal preference where maybe you don't talk about your personal like to a specific like religion, or
Mm.
do you draw the line, or is there a basic
I,
guide to
I
this?
think I think you have to define, okay, because if you go into like thought leadership as a brand or a branding or content strategy, then I think we need to define what we are willing to portray, right? So what I like to say is we need to curate our brand, right? So curate meaning we pick and choose what to present, right? A lot of people want to create the brand, right? They build this image to present outside. I feel it's not entirely wrong, but I feel there are weaknesses, right? Because if this image is not fully you, there are certain parts that are constructed. Then, well, if it's not you, you have to carry this burden, right? You have to somehow pretend to be this person, and then
And
who
how long
knows?
you can do it, right?
Yeah, correct. How long can you do it? Who knows? You're shopping one day, and then your real person comes out, somebody else saw it. Oh, I never thought this person is like that, right? So and that cracks your image. So I would say curate your image, right? So bring out, pick and choose what is truly you, the best version of you, and present that to the world. Then you don't need to carry any burden at all, because it's always you. It's always the true and best version of you. And so coming back to what we want to present, it really depends on what you want to present to the world in terms of your thought leadership, right? But it always has to come from within us. Like for me, as I mentioned, I'm a very committed Christian. A lot of my worldview comes from my Christian values, right? But I don't necessarily always come out and say, yeah, I'm like this because I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, whatever. It's not necessary, not necessary. But if it comes that, okay, I want to share something from this faith that I value. I don't think it's wrong also, right? So it really depends on where you want to go, what kind of um, personal branding and thought leadership direction you want to take.
Mm.
There's no right, no wrong in this, lah. I would say,
Mm.
right?
So since you take it, there's no right and there's no wrong, right?
Mm.
I will touch into that. Before that, Papa said two giants in their respective field coming together.
Dahsyat.
Dahsyat result. Thank you,
Betul lah,
Papa.
dahsyat.
Itulah, next I want to invite you, Puspa. So yeah, there's no right and wrong, but there is like bad practices. So
Mm.
what do you see people do wrong in terms of doing thought leadership?
I think one thing is to, like I mentioned just now, to create the image. You know, and it's not impossible lah. You can do it, right? You can actually hire very good um, consultants, content creators, marketing people, PR people. You can actually do it. You can actually create a persona for yourself. Um, the question is, how comfortable are you with that? I'm not comfortable, right? I don't want to. I don't want to be living a persona. I want to be able to be free to be myself. And but that's me lah, right? So some people they don't mind. I know there are a lot of high profile business people, they do this, right? They keep their private life very private, and they have a very public profile. If you have the resources to do that, you can. But for the rest of us who are very normal, we still need to go out and meet people every day, and we bump into people in the supermarket. uh, for me, I feel I'm not comfortable with that kind of thing, right? So that's one. Secondly, I would say not not having full ownership of the thought leadership that you have. What I mean is, some people might think, oh yeah, to advance our business, we need to do some thought leadership. You can treat it as just another piece of content, but I think there is a limit to that. For example, if you if you want to be a champion, if you want to be seen as a champion for good employer practices, for example, right? Good employer practices. So you can come up with a calendar of content, right? Talking about why employers should treat their employees in certain way, right? And all these kind of things. But when it comes to crisis, that's where the real colors always come out, right? Because all of us know, somewhere out there are many companies who have a poster on the wall that said, our people are our greatest assets. We treat our employees in such and such and such a great way. But when crisis comes, what happens? Oh, all right. So the most convenient cost saving is fire employees, cut employees' salary, right? Cut employees' benefits, and sometimes I feel bad about doing it, so I will just quietly send them an email and not even talk to them face to face, right? So what happened to your values? What happened to all the things that you preach about? So there is a certain limitation to treating thought leadership as just another business function or business content, right? If it really comes from a sense of purpose, then, for example, when hard times come and you really need to make the hard decisions about your employees, you really need to cut their salary, you really need to fire some. Those things you still need to do, but how you do it will be very different, right? Because it comes from a sense of purpose. So that's why these are the two things I feel. I wouldn't say bad lah. It can be done, but I'm saying is there's limitations to what it really can achieve lah.
Mm. Mm. So there's a lot for us to absorb and think about. Like for me as well, we've been doing it for quite some time.
Mm.
I have been doing it for quite some time, and there's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
so much to learn. So that is why, like, I have this show to
No,
actually help.
I'm sure you understand that, Harry, is because in your
Mm,
business,
mm,
uh, I'm very sure that in certain business processes, it's easier to be in the disposable kind of culture, right? It's easier to just buy new materials instead of sourcing for recycled materials, right? But if you have the purpose, you will somehow find a way to make it work, right? Because you're still
correct,
a
correct,
business, you're not a charity,
correct,
right? You still need
correct,
to make
correct.
money, even though the process is harder and maybe it's more expensive, but you will find a way.
Correct,
Mm.
correct. And then I think that is why this show I found it this show is to have this conversation where, like, because people think that if you want to go to green business or social enterprise, there people will buy from you just because of your cause, right? But that is
Mm.
far from the truth. Like, people maybe
Mm.
buy once, but then they buy it for charity. So
Yeah.
for in order for you to make a proper business, you need to work like a proper business.
Yeah,
So
that's
all
right.
the things that traditional business needs to do, we also need to do.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, okay, if normal business, they have to think about 1,000, 10,000 time things. Like for social enterprise or green business, we have to think about 20,000. So it's additional work. So that is
Yeah.
why we
True.
need to have all this tool and how we can optimize all this tool. So thank you very much, Chee Seng, for your time. Before we end the show, is there anything that you want to summarize, or your last tips lah for the viewers?
Yeah, so if if you don't remember anything else from this show, I would just say one thing lah, right? If thought leadership is, yes, very important, and like I said, it will be more important in the years to come, right? Because things are moving very fast now. Especially in we are still in the pandemic, but we still need to carry on with our economic activities. We cannot stop. So there is still a lot of adjustments being made in the world, all over the world, right? And businesses, and we can see businesses that want to restart, there are a lot of problems being faced now. So this one will continue for the next few years lah. And what happens is, when we are living in such a dynamically changing and uncertain world, people want certainty, people want answers, right? People are looking for ways how to survive in this very, very confusing world now, right? So thought leadership definitely will be very, very important in the next 5 years at least, right? And probably become more important as we go along, as the world becomes more uncertain, right? Especially now with the metaverse coming up, bitcoins, a lot of things are changing. So we don't know where it goes. So people will want to look for answers. People will want to look for certainty in how to move forward. So uh, that's one. Second thing is, if you ask me, if you want to be in this space to be able to uh, help people, uh, then you need to come from a place of very solid purpose, right? You can't just treat thought leadership as just another genre of content, or another business building function. Yes, it is that. But if you want to be a real thought leader, to have real impact, to have real significance, then it really needs to come from a very solid sense of purpose and ownership lah. Yeah, so these will be the two main things I would say.
Thank you very much for the concise summary. So, Chee Seng, thank you very much for your time. And for the listener, if you want to know more or connect with Chee Seng, he's active on LinkedIn. You can put Chee Seng Rights, or you can also find Chee Seng Lai. And also, I would like to invite you guys to be part of our community, which is the Green Design Malaysia community on Facebook, where we talk about green design and local business, sustainable business here in Malaysia. And we want to encourage more conversation about sustainability, more conversation about activism, sustainable activism, and all these things that can create to a better Malaysia. And to end up the show, I would like to thank again Chee Seng, and for you guys that is tuning in. Thank you very much, Jocelyn. Uh,
Thank you,
your
Jocelyn. Thank you for being
good
here.
input. And see you next week and have a green week ahead, guys. Bye bye.